Good evening, Facebook family. How are you? It's a bit warm, isn't it? It is a bit warm, but we're not moaning about it. I had a great holiday. Looking a little bit tanned. Not gonna lie, a lot of it is fake because I don't really tan. But I'm feeling fresh and freckly. Okay, so tonight is a serious conversation. And if you are coming on, please just put a comment, put a hey, so I can see that you're there. And I can see that the comments are working. In fact, I'm just going to check something. Give me a sec. Just turn me down. Wait a second. There we go. Okay. Say hi if you're coming on. Just let me know that someone's there. Let me know if I can see the comments. Let me have a look. Okay, I'm going to get cracking anyway. So whether you're watching this live or you're watching on the replay, this is quite a big conversation. So I'm probably going to be on for a little bit longer than 20 minutes or half an hour like I normally am. Let's just see how it goes. I'll see if I can get it in half an hour. But I've got a lot to say on this and it's really important. So I'm just going to go with it and see where we're at. So if you're watching on the replay, hashtag replay, say hey, I will reply to you. And I really want to settle in and talk about this subject of self-worth, value, confidence, but really self-worth and self-value. And the reason why this conversation is important for anybody, but particularly for the people who I work with, which are entrepreneurial women, women with a side hustle, somebody who is actively seeking more in their life, whether that be more, hi Justine, hey, more whatever, more joy, more happiness, more freedom, more money, more whatever. And it's a really, really important conversation because I recognize from my own journey how important this is. And I really, even I had not really understood the depth of the importance of the subject of self-worth. And I wanted to give you some context before we go into the purpose of tonight's live, which really is to look at self-worth, to look at our self-concept, to look at how we judge ourselves. We're also going to talk about personal responsibility. So I will say that there are parts of what I'm going to talk about tonight which you might find a little bit triggering. I don't apologize for that because I know how that feels and I have worked through that, and so I can stand with full integrity with you and say that if you do this and if you embody what I'm going to talk about tonight, that it will change a lot for you. So even though that's not a comfortable conversation or a comfortable feeling, we're not here to mess around, right? So this is an important conversation if you are alive and if you are trying to do and be the best version of yourself. Because when we have low self-worth, and I am talking from experience, like the first half of my life, especially from school, well, I'd say right up until my 30s, before my personal growth journey started. And if I'm honest, most of my first business, the set point of my self-worth and my value of how I valued myself was a lot lower standard than it is today. And when you have, or part of your identity has that connection to low self-worth, low self-value, is that you, and I've got loads of notes here, so if you see me looking down, look, I did it old school. I just thought I'm just going to put everything I think about this on a piece of paper. We start asking questions like this. We ask questions like, who am I to ask for this? Think about how that question relates to anything that that's going on in your life. Who am I to ask for the raise? Who am I to ask for the promotion? Who am I to ask him to no longer talk to me that way? Who am I to ask for this business? Who am I to ask this person to work with me? Who am I to, who am I to ask for this? Who am I to earn this? If you are a business owner with an unlimited unlimited income, And your journey to the place that you want to be, the freedom that you want to create, requires you to grow more income. But your worth says, who am I to earn this? And you can apply that to a promotion. You can apply that to a raise at work. You can apply it to whatever you want. Who am I to expect this? Who am I to expect this launch to go well? Who am I to expect people to work with me? Who am I to expect this colleague to give me a good, have a great conversation about me at work? Who am I to be put forward for the promotion? Who am I to expect things to go well? Apply that to wherever that applies to your life. Who am I to say no to this? And that one will resonate with a lot of you for very, very different reasons. There are some very personal reasons that I'm on a live here, so I'm on a public live, so it's not a story I will share publicly, but it's a story that I have shared privately before. And if any of my programs and future programs, you'll hear that story I'm referring to, but you get the gist. Who am I to say no to this, right? Who am I to say yes to this? Think about when you've said no, when you really wanted to say yes to the opportunity, to being asked to speak, to being asked on a date, to being asked anywhere on anything that moved your life in the direction of something that was good for you, but you were too scared to say yes. It might have even been, who am I to say yes to being asked to dance? Who am I to say yes to be asked to dinner? This person's too good for me. This opportunity is too good. I'll mess it up. Fear, 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 fear. So when you think about, and I'm not saying that I didn't think self-worth was important. Of course I know it's important. I'm in personal growth. But the set point, the rested state of your self-worth affects every single second of every single day in every area of your life. Now, I particularly speak to people who have businesses because that's who I love to speak to. I love to help people in that gap between, I want to do this feels good, I want to create this, and the gap. I was picking my nephew up from the station this morning, and I took a picture of the Mind the Gap sign on the side of the station, because it was just like, mind that gap. Because in that gap there is challenge, and there are uncomfortable feelings, and there are new beliefs that you're going to have to start believing, and you are going to have to raise your standards for yourself and your opinion of yourself. Hey, Anne. So who am I to say no to this? Who am I to say yes to this? So if you've ever thought, because we don't often say, who am I to? We don't often say it out loud, but that's the internal narrative that's going on in our minds. It's like, well, who are you to say yes to that? Who are you to say no to that? Who are you to ask for that? Who are you to earn that? Who are you to expect this to go well? And I'm saying this from a place of like this is real. This has been me. This was me for a very, very long time. It's why this subject is so important to me. It's why everything I do now is to do with identity. Because my identity was somebody who talked a good game, winged it a lot, but actually didn't really believe that she was worthy, or that she was worthy of any of the things that were on her heart, right? That was who I was. And so the transition from where I was to who I am today, as we sit here having this conversation now, is night and day. And it makes me actually quite emotional to talk about it, is I can't tell you the difference. It's a beautiful thing, right? And this goes deeper than being a people pleaser. And that's how it's always labeled. Oh, she's a people pleaser. But underneath and between the lines of that very generically used label, that's somebody who puts everybody else before themselves, or laughs off nasty things that are said about them, or everything's water off a duck's back because she's so agreeable, she agrees to everything, she does. The deeper underbelly of people pleaser is somebody that just doesn't think they're important enough, everybody is to some degree. What I'm talking about here is the depth, and especially women. I mean, sorry to generalize, guys, but guys, women tend to be people pleasers because we're conditioned to be that way. I'm not saying that there aren't guy people pleasers, there absolutely are. But I work with women and, but I see it in the men in my life as well, right? But ultimately, underneath the depth of that people pleaser statement is somebody who just doesn't think that their voice is important enough, that their presence is important enough, that their opinion is important enough, that what they desire is more important or equally as important to anybody else around them. So that is low self-worth, low value. You don't value your voice, you don't value your presence, you don't value what you do enough to go against the grain, to rub up against the status quo, to say, actually, I disagree with that. Can I just give you my opinion? Because who am I to speak up? Who am I to? So I'll just keep quiet because that doesn't put me in the firing line. It doesn't put me or invite any criticism in, because I can't take any more criticism, because if I put myself out there in the firing line of some criticism, then they're going to confirm what I already know about me. So I'll just keep quiet. And so tonight is really talking about and asking, I want you to ask this question of yourself, like, what is your opinion of yourself? And how was it formed? And I'll tell you how mine was formed. And I think how a lot of people's were formed. And I'm going to say it in statements, and I just want you can write them down, you can come back to the live, you can watch it again, but it really just think about and feel into what the answer to these statements, questions are. So what others said about you or to you when you were younger? That might be parents, that might be school friends. And I say school friends because this can come from friends just as much as people that you didn't get on with at school, right? So friends, family. So the things that, if you're a bit lazy or you're always late, yeah, bloody hell, if you're on time and they go, bloody hell, what's up with you? You got the wrong side of bed because you're on time. So you now believe that you're somebody that's always late. Now you might be someone that's always late. That just might be part of your being, but you get my point. So what people said about you or to you, and I'm going to add something to the end of this because we are getting towards the personal responsibility part at the end of this section of the live, and what you chose to believe. And you're going to see where this is going. The way someone looked at you and how you interpreted it. So that might have been a look from somebody at school. It might have been a look from a lover, a partner, a friend, a colleague, a boss, a parent, a sibling. How you received a look. And I have people in my life whose judgment of me is represented in a facial expression. And when I used to, before I'd done the work and moved this out of my brain, when I used to go live or I used to post something, I would see this face with this certain facial expression on it, and it would make me hesitate. And it would just be a get back in your box. Just don't get too big for your boots, And so something you said or did, and what you made it mean about you. I've said some horrible things. I've done some things I'm not particularly proud of. What I did with those things added to the narrative, right? Oh, because you're a bad person, or you're not a kind person. Others always labelled me as sensitive, always felt that I had to hide this part of myself. Absolutely not, Justine. It's your superpower, right? Also that I had to be sensible older sibling. As a result, I suppressed a lot of my true self until recently. I love you. Beautiful thing. Sensitivity is a superpower, right? In fact, I've just sent a thing that I've shared for my friends about ADHD. My friend's son's got ADHD. And it was just saying how ADHD... in fact, I'll post it on my feed because it's brilliant. I'll do it later. Take me off track. So something that you said or that you did and what you made it mean about you. So think about that. The way someone treated you, boyfriend, girlfriend, lover, friend, partner, parents, siblings, all our relationships in our lives. How someone treated you. The next part to that is how you allowed someone to treat you. I have a really interesting story about this. So I had a long unrequited love from about being the age of 11. Hope he's not watching this. So I basically fell in love with him when I was 11. I got him when I was 16. Yes, Justine. I was always told as a kid, I'm the older sibling, I need to have a wider shoulders, always taking bad behaviour. Yeah. So therefore you tolerate more. You've got a higher tolerance for stuff like that, 100%. So you can see how those things mould who you think you are, right? So this person I was madly in love with, and I basically, he said jump, I asked how high. He could do anything. He would do anything, and I would just suck it up and just be like, yeah, it's okay, I forgive you, because I was absolutely obsessed with him. He would go off to uni, and I would just, have something else going on, and then he'd come back, and that would just get ended. And I was just, and I'm not gonna lie, I hope he's not watching this. He knows who he is. I'm not going to lie that person had an impact on every single relationship I have ever had up until my marriage. So when I was 30, and we were on and off for about probably 3 or 4 years. Stayed friends, still friends, great guy. And when I was about 30, just before I'd met Mark, and we'd been together about 4 weeks. And this person lived in another country at the time. And that week that me and Mark had sort of, started to get close, and he messaged me and he was like, I'm coming back, it'd be great to see you. And I was like, God. And I'm not gonna lie, I had dreamt about this person every single day, every night for all those years. It wasn't always a dream about them specifically, but they'd always be in it. Like if I was in a restaurant, they'd be sat on the table in the corner. Like they just lived in my unconscious mind and showed up in my dreams. So I'm a big dreamer. Like I dream every night. And they would just be in the dream. So it's like they never left me. And so when they came up and he said, do you want to meet for a drink? And I said, yeah, that'd be great. Good to see you. We met for a drink, and then Dylan was only little at the time, and Dylan had woken up and was crying. So I ended up leaving pretty much an hour or two after we'd met. And then he came round the next day. And I just decided to tell him. I was just like, do you know what? I'm just going to get it all off my chest, like how you made me feel and how I felt about him. And we had a very adult, grown-up conversation about it. And he said to me, you know what? He said, if we would have ever got back together, we'd have to get to know each other again, because we were kids, you were a kid and I was a kid. And he said, you just let me walk all over you. He said, I was 18, 19, 20. You let me. And so I got away with it. I said, I know I did. And I took full responsibility for how I allowed that to happen to myself. And he was like, I'll always love you. We'll always be connected, and we're still friends now. We don't see each other, but you know what I mean. No bad feeling. So, but the impact of that relationship and the impact of how I allowed myself to be treated, like I said, it impacted everything. It impacted definitely every relationship I've ever been in, because the standard I held for myself of what it, to be in a relationship and what it meant to be in a relationship and how you were meant to be in a relationship was my blueprint. That's how you get the guy. That's how you keep them or not keep them. That's what you do if, all this. So that was like a major, major piece of how you allow somebody to treat you. And I'm using that word really intentionally, right? What you tolerate in your relationships, what you tolerate in your business, what you tolerate in your work, the way you tolerate how you're spoken to. All these things are an example and evidence of how highly you value yourself. And the effect of all this is the habits you then form. Because saying no when you mean yes, saying yes when you mean no, not putting your hand up and giving your opinion, not saying yes to the opportunity, not saying no to the opportunity, not expecting things to go well, not expecting to earn above a certain amount of money, not asking for what you want, are all habits. And they are habits that you have formed based on the identity you have constructed. And I'm going to use a different word there. The identity that you adopted. And I'm going to underline that loads of times. Because the true nature of who you are is pure self-worth, pure abundance, pure soul, pure spirit, pure brilliance, pure magnificence, pure one, all the amazing, you're a bloody human being, like you're an incredible human being. Hey, Kerry. And so the habit that everything that has formed our identity and our self-concept, that's how you see yourself. And let me just say here while I'm here, is that how you see yourself is directly linked to how you think other people see you. So when you fear judgment of other people and what they're thinking about you, it's actually what you think about yourself. Everything I'm talking about tonight is radical self-responsibility, radical personal acceptance, radical truth about who you are or who you believe yourself to be in this moment. Because until you can get real and truthful and honest about where you are at right now, not where you hope to be, not where you think you be, not where you desire to be, but where you actually are within regards to your self-concept and how you believe and who you think you are and what you believe you're capable of and what's available to you. Truth there is everything, right? That's how we shift it. We can't just affirm over it. We can't desire out of it, because the set point, the rested state, the baseline of where your worth and your value is driving everything unconsciously. So the identity that you've adopted, using that word deliberately, is because you've adopted it. It's not yours. You've adopted it. You've gone, oh, let me just take this version and let me just take this identity and let me just put it on like a suit, because then it will protect me from all the things that have hurt me in the past, or all the things that have made me feel bad. And if I stay quiet enough and I stay small enough and if I stay insignificant enough, then I won't put myself in the firing line. And I can tell you now that being willing, talk about willingness so much now, to being willing to put yourself in the firing line is one of the scariest things you'll ever feel. But I was told, so we haven't flown for a long time because we've not been away for a long time. And so when we got on the flight, William was a little bit scared. I mean, he flew into blooming Dubai and Singapore when he was little, but he's not been on a flight for a while. So he was a little bit scared. And obviously I'm NLP trained and time, all that, so I can deal with phobias, right? But I just said to him, I said, listen, you feel scared. And that feeling, because it was like taking off and landing. I said, that feeling of taking off is going to last about 35 seconds, to a minute. I said, and it's just a feeling and it's not going to last. And we're not scared of scary feelings. We're not running away. I'm not going to try and distract you from it. I want you to sit with the discomfort of this feeling while we take off. You can rub your fingers together to stay calm, so you don't, give yourself something else to focus on. But you're just going to sit with this feeling for about a minute and you're going to feel it. And you're going to see that a difficult feeling is going to pass. And I thought that's exactly what I've been doing for the last 5 months with my own work and with clients, is just like, let's just sit with it. Let's be with this. Can I be with this feeling? And so I've lost my train of thought now. Give me a second. Taking that suit off, taking the adopted identity off, scary. But the thing that allows us to process that is taking full responsibility for all of it. Because here's the thing, and this is what I know to be true. because this is how it is for me. I allowed myself to be spoken to like that, treated like that. I allowed myself, and this is okay, by the way. There's no blame here. There's no shame here. It's just, this is the truth. It's very vulnerable, Justine. Is that I allowed that person to speak to me that way consistently enough over time, just to keep the peace, to stay connected, to fit in, to stay out of the firing line. I did it for long enough that it became who I was. Not anymore. I allowed the feeling of that vulnerability and the feeling of that fear to run my life for half of my life. Not anymore. I allowed, hey Beth, going to the chapel and we're gonna get married. Beth's getting married in October. I did get your link. I'm sorry I've not responded. I will respond. And of course I'm going to watch. I allowed all that. And that can be really, and listen, there have been some really scary, horrible things happen to me in that half of my life, right? And so when I said it's triggering that I allowed that, and I will say it with full conviction. And if it triggers you, I love you and I'm here for it. There are obviously situations where that we have no control over that, and that's real. It's not that, everything that happened to us, we allowed it. What I'm talking about is the parts of the things that happened and what we made it mean. And when we are in a place where we can take personal responsibility, and listen, you can't take responsibility for it in the moment. This is a hindsight thing, right? This is a healing thing. Being able to look back at your life and saying, okay, this happened to me, for me, whatever you want to put it. This happened to me. How I've chosen to respond to that in this period of my life did not serve me in the long run, because here I am now with a lower self-worth and a lower self-esteem. But now I get to choose differently, because everything that's happened in the first half of your life, or wherever you are in your life, I hope it's got more than half left. I hope I have, even though I'm like approaching 50. Whatever went on in the pool of your life in the past has absolutely nothing to do with what's possible for the rest of your life. If you are willing, underline the word willing, if you are willing to take full responsibility for how you feel about you now. And let me tell you what that looks like. So when you have done this work, and there is a messy middle in the middle, I'm not going to lie, right? There is a messy middle in the middle, and I'm here for it. That's what I do for a living. And I do it with love and joy. In fact, I did something new today. So on this live somewhere, it says featured link there. If you click that link, you can join my little 7-day free thing that's happening next week, which is about us getting really, really honest about our intentions. It is specifically for women who have a business or a side hustle. But if you would like to get intentional about anything you're wanting to achieve, then feel free to come into that too. Let me tell you what happens when you shift into a position of high self-worth, high self-value. Like, yes, I have a high opinion of myself and I don't apologize for it, all right? I have a very high opinion of myself. Now, there are remnants of what I just said in that sentence that will trigger a little bit of a ooh in some, because it's linked to who does she think she is? She's got a high, she rates herself. Who does she think she is? She's got a bit of a, who does she think she is? Lady Mo, she's got a high opinion of herself. Yeah, you're damn right I have. You're damn right I have. And it's taken me years to get to that, and no one will ever take me off that place, that standard. So when you have a high self-value and a high self-worth, you ask for what you want and you don't have to justify why you want it. You say, yeah, that's what I want. That's the life I want to live. That's the relationship I want to have. That's the money I want to earn. That is the position I want to reach. That is the depth of love and intimacy I want in my relationship. That's what I want. And I don't have to justify why. Thanks, Kerry. It's not gonna you, is it? Hey, Kerry! Other Kerry, Poland. I'm gonna ask for what I want and I don't have to justify why I want it. You expect to be treated with respect. You expect to be treated with respect. And anybody who doesn't treat you with respect doesn't get your time, doesn't get your space, doesn't get your energy. There's nothing negative about that. It's just like, hey, my presence, this energy around me is sacred, and I choose who comes into that circle. And if you're going to speak to me like that, and you're going to treat me like that, and you're going to think that, then you don't get that space. Go with love. I love you. Go do you. But I take responsibility for the people in that circle, because that's my job. That's not that person's job. That person shows up in their shit, being themselves, with all their stuff going on. It's my responsibility not to allow that in. It's not their fault. They're just being them. They're just doing the best that they can do with the resources that they have. And it's my choice whether or not they get to come in or not. My responsibility. I expect things to turn out well. I expect things to turn out well. Now, if we were to go down the path of, if we go down the path of manifestation now, you can see why things start to manifest, right? Because I expect it to go well. And if it doesn't go well within regards to what society says go well, it's still going well. The desire, the dream, the goal, the situation's still going to happen. I'm not waiting for evidence within this reality right now to depict to me and to tell me how my life's going to turn out based on what I'm seeing now, because what I'm seeing now is just a representation of past, not present, and not future. So I expect things to go well. I expect things to go well because I'm a good person. I put out good work. I'm good at what I do. I expect it to go well. Of course it's going to go well. But I can only say that from a place of high self-value, because I value myself. I value my presence. I value what I do. You can see where this is going, right? And I'm saying all this in context of me, but say this in the context of you. Imagine if you could say with integrity and with a rested state, I value myself, I value my presence, I value what I do and how I do it. Right? People expect you to have boundaries and they respect them. When people take the piss out of you or a situation or whatever, it's because on some level they felt safe to do that. Again, massive responsibility, massive personal responsibility. Give somebody an inch, they'll take a mile, and that's okay. And some boundaries are flexible. Some boundaries in our life are flexible, some aren't. I have worked with people who have such strong boundaries that I would go over hot coals before I cross that boundary. And it's nothing that they've said. And that's what I've learned from. It's nothing that they've said. They're a loving, gorgeous person, but they have such an energy about them that I would not cross a boundary that I know is there just from a feeling. And that takes high self-worth. That comes from a place of value. I realised a lot of forgiveness has been needed on my personal journey, not just of others, but of myself 100%. You know, earlier on when I said something that you said or you did, hell yeah, suit is off. This is me. I choose now. I value myself. I know you do. Beth is one of, hope you don't mind me saying this, Beth. Beth is one of my most proudest moments in my coaching career. One of the best. And one day she'll tell her story. And when she does, I will be crying in the audience. You know, I've done some shitty things. I've said some shitty things to people. I've taken the piss. I have pushed other people's boundaries. I have gone back on what I said I was going to do. I've done all those things. I'm fucking human. I was learning. I was doing the best with what I knew at the time. You know, the Maya Angelou quote, I did then what I knew how to do. Now I know better, I do better. You have to forgive yourself. Nobody else is going to do it unless you do, right? So there's been a lot of forgiveness. And it's just that understanding and that empathy and that compassion for yourself is just like, you know, and this is why when you get to this place of like, and this is how powerful this is like, when you know who you are, one of the things that is frightening about having an online business, and one of the reasons why I know that my business hasn't grown to the level that I wanted it to, and this is just me being really honest, is that I was really scared of what if, I mean, consciously I wasn't. Here's the thing, right? Consciously I wasn't. Consciously I was like, oh no, it's fine, I'll be able to handle it. Unconsciously I was scared shitless of what if people don't like me? Massive wound. I mean, you know, I was a chronic people pleaser. Like, I wanted to please everybody. I wanted everybody to like me. I hated it if someone didn't like me. I found it really upsetting because like, why don't you like me? I'm a really nice person. Like, I would hate it. So there was a part of me that I had to go to own the fact that the reason I've really not pushed myself in the way that, you know, not pushed myself, that sounds like a bit hustly, but really not stood in my own value and just really put myself out there and asked. In fact, today I'm going to ask you that if any of part of this has resonated with you, to share this live for me or tag somebody that you know needs to hear it. I never used to ask that. Like, oh God, what if they tag somebody that don't like me? Like all that bullshit, right? So one of the reasons that, you know, there are parts of ourselves, it's not your conscious part, it's that there's another part of you that's still scared about that or still, so we have to, oh, I've completely lost my train of thought. We have to go looking for, and the way that I do this, right? The way that I do this is I do it in a really like, let's go. Like anyone who works with me now, it's just like, let's go. And when we find something that's like, yeah, yes, like bring it on. Let's find it. Let's dig it out. Let's get the weed out. Let's go in hunt. Let's go looking for it. And so many of us, we shy away from that. We shy away from our shadow because we know it doesn't feel good and we're scared. We've got fear of the fear. So I shared a post about this on my stories the other day. There's 3 relationships we're in constantly every single day. That is the fear, our relationship to fear and emotional pain, our relationship to desire, right? What we want, and our relationship to time and resources, right? There's 3 relationships, we're in that, and there's more to it than that, obviously. But we're in those relationships every minute of every single day. And most of the time you are frightened of fear. You are, so like William with the plane, he was actually scared of the feeling that it was generating, not the actual thing. He was scared of how it made him feel. Most of the time we're scared of how something's going to make us feel, so we avoid it. I'm like a fear hunter. Let's go. Let's go find the thing. Let's go find the part of you that's still scared shitless, even though your brain's going, no, it's fine. I don't care about that. Bullshit. You might not, but there's a part of you sat somewhere in your unconscious mind going, no, you're all right, thanks. And the reason you'll know that you have those is because you're not moving forward in that direction. And what will happen is your desire is here. So the whole thing I'm doing next week is called the magnetic truth method. So you are magnetic when your truth, when your intention is aligned with the desire, because your desire can be here and your intention can be here, about 3 degrees off. So you might just get it, but you might just miss. Got to get those things together, right? That's what's happening next week. What was it? Justine, only light going to shine through our shadows. Exactly. It's a beautiful thing when it happens. Exactly. But my attitude and my approach to shadow work is very awesome. It's very like, let's go hunting. Awesome. We found something brilliant. Does that feel uncomfortable? Wicked. Let's go there. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Let's get rid of it. Right? Because the magic, it's so magic. It's so magic. It's just dissolving. Leave space for new embodiment. It needs, it leaves space for the new, for the suit to be taken off, and for the you who you really are to be fully embodied in your energy and your presence and your joy and your It raises that self-worth. It raises that self-value, because all the shit that says you can't be, do, have, all the stuff that says you're this person that you've constructed and that you've adopted in order to keep yourself, it dissolves all the things that created that. Dissolve, 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 dissolve. Room for new, right? What else happens when you've got a self world? Your energy commands attention. And people expect, you know, you're motivated to do what you want to do because you know that it's of value. You know, back in, you know, a few years ago, and I'm going to say even last year, like this shit was going on for me last year, particularly last year actually, is that you don't really talk too much about what you're doing, because it's just like, and there's this just a resistance, there's this like, happening. And it's because you don't really value yourself. So you don't really value what you do, and you don't really value how you do it. So why would you shout about it? And that's not a conscious thing. And it's been really, you know, I want to be open about this, because I've been coaching since 2017. I've been coaching a long time, and I've done a great job so far. I did a great job with the resources that I had and who I was, and everything that I have overcome, I have taught, and I've had some great results, and I've done some great things. But this last year, particularly this last 6 months, I'm going to use the phrase, I have quantum leaped in my energy and in my self-worth and in my value. Quantum leaped. It is night and day. And while I've been doing all this for myself, I've been learning how to do it with clients too. So I'm a completely different coach. It's changed how I coach. It's changed everything. But everything I come back to, and everything for you that I want to really support you with, is your self-worth, your value, your confidence, your personal power, your ability to just stand in a room and know who you are. And that's what I've missed my point. I've just remembered what I was talking about. The fear of like being criticized, or the fear of not being liked. Now I know who I am. I know who I am. I know my value. I know my worth. And anyone who's got anything different to say about it, I'm good, because I know who I am. So the fear of that has gone. I'm not saying that it won't be challenging. I'm not saying that if that came, that wouldn't be difficult for me and I wouldn't feel the feels. Of course I would, but fundamentally the motivation to get to a new level is there, because I no longer fear that. There's no part of me that has a fear that I'm not aware of and that I can't process, right? So that's what, getting back to the point. Yeah, you become motivated to what you do. You feel the value of your work. You feel the value of your presence. You feel the balance of your process if you've got a business. Your confidence is increased. You serve better. You know, like, it's took me a year to get to the point where I want to show up live again. That's where, you know, I've had a tough time. It's not been pretty, right? But out the other side of it now is just like, let's go. Let me get back to what I love. Let me get back to doing it because I love it. Because I do love it. Somebody asked a post earlier, like, would you do what you do for free? And I was like, I've done it for free a lot. And I get just as passionate about the free stuff as I do in my paid containers. So yeah, I would do it because I love it. But I'd lost that. I'd become too focused on the outcome, too focused on, you know, and I'm sure you can all relate. When you become too focused on the immediate results and what's happening in the now, and you make that mean something about you, you're fighting a losing battle. We have to go first. Your energy has to go first. Your value has to go first. And so when you have all this is raised up, you know, and this is something I'm teaching in Emergence, which is I'm just finishing filming it next week, and then that's going to be going out as something you could just purchase. It's pre-recorded. There will be a live call with it, but Emergence is basically if you're a coach, consultant, any service-based entrepreneur, then we are going to go deep into the 4 pillars of embodiment of the reason why people do phenomenally well in service-based roles or service-based businesses, because of these 4 pillars. So we're going to go deep into those 4 pillars in Emergence: confidence, value, service, and love. When you are fully embodied in those 4, everything flies. Everything flies. And it flies because all of those things are raised up, and that's magnetic. But it starts with the magnetic truth method. It starts with getting your intention, your energetic intention, your body's intention aligned with your desires. So the route to identity, which is my main program, is very, very been carefully constructed. So it is a route. Starts with a free thing, and then you can move through if you choose to. But every single part of that will be life-changing. Every single part of it is very, very impactful. So I hope you come and join me next week in the free thing. You'll be doing yourself a favor if you do. So here's the last thing I want to say, because I'm going to come off because it's been 45 minutes. There is a night and day experience. And I think that your value and your self-worth is the key. And going back to my human design, it's really funny because the human design, I've not talked about it for a while because I've sort of been deep in this, but now I'm bringing that together. And when I look at my design and actually what I'm designed to teach and, you know, what I'm most aligned to talk about, and I have a completely open ego in my human design, which is the center of worth and resources, and everything that I have come, you know, fully embodied now are everything that I'm designed to be talking about. So that's really, really exciting and very funny. I love how that all works out. But it's night and day. And if you have a business, and this, I'm going to end on this. If you have a business, a side hustle, if you're wanting to create something more, or this could even be relevant to a relationship, I've written it down. You have to feel and believe that you are the obvious choice before anybody else will. So if you have a business, if you have a service-based business, and you don't believe on a body level, not in here's great, but if you don't feel in your bones that you are the obvious choice, you can't expect anybody else to. And you could, I said, relationship, if you don't believe you're the obvious choice for somebody, and this isn't from I just wanted to make a little caveat here. This is not from a place of arrogance. And I had to be willing, like talking about this subject tonight in the way that I've spoken about it, I had to be willing for somebody watching this to think, oh, she's a bit full of herself. I had to be willing for that. I've hidden away from that my entire life. In order to really embody something, you have to be willing for somebody to think, feel, say the thing that you've been avoiding. You have to be willing for that to happen, because one of the things that I play with this is just like, it's sort of now in my energy, and I don't mean this in I'm not actually like pushing for this, but the way that I've really lent into that is like, if somebody doesn't feel that about me, somebody, not necessarily the people that know me, like most people on here know me, right? So you know who I am, right? And you know my heart and you know who I am. But if somebody doesn't find me and somebody doesn't think, she's a bit full of herself, I'm not doing a good enough job. That is because I know where I've come from. I know how it used to be. And I take this over that any day of the week. And so I have to be willing for that to be the case. And I have to be willing, and I will say, I have to be willing, you have to be willing, in order to achieve the thing that you want to achieve, be the person that you want to be, if it brings up fear, because here's the truth, your desires will bring up your fear, will bring up your shadow. That's what they're for. So we desire something, the shadows come up. And if we don't deal with the shadows, we don't move forward. Right? So we desire, the shadows come up, we deal with them, new embodiment, we move. That's how it works. And so it's not a one and done thing. Things will come up, and every new level has a new devil, as they say. Every new level has a new shadow. But the thing is, I want to teach you how to work with yourself. I don't want you to need me. I don't want this to be a codependent situation. And everything I'm doing now is going to be teaching you how to work with yourself, to recognize patterns, to feel when something doesn't feel right in your body. Like you can say something and checking in, actually, does my body agree? because I was saying things like, you know, I was saying a desire and my stomach was like tense. And this, you know, essentially that was just my nervous system going, nah, you're all right, thanks. So I'd be saying, oh, you know, I want a massive audience. I want loads of people. My body was like, no, thank you. Because the more people that you get, the more chance there is of being criticised or not liked and blah, 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 blah. So I was going, yeah, I want that. My body's going, nah, you're all right, thanks. We'll stay over here. And getting honest and brutally honest with that part of yourself is so powerful. It's so powerful. So, just to round up, raising your self-worth and your self-value is key to everything. Full stop. Taking personal responsibility for how you have constructed and adopted the identity that you have now based on all the things we've talked about. Taking full responsibility for, okay, I allowed all that. Now it's time for new. I choose not to believe that anymore, because actually that's not true. So the question I asked yesterday was, you know, what is your opinion of yourself and who gave it to you? Because most of the opinion you have about yourself was not yours. It was given to you by other people. It was how you interpreted the outside world internally. And then what you made that mean, and then what you adopted as an identity. You have to be willing to let that go. And here's another thing that's scary about it. Sorry, I will wrap up in a minute. I could talk about this all night. The other thing that's scary about that is, who am I without that? Who am I without that identity? Because that identity is wrapped up in all your relationships. Now, it does not mean that you've got to get rid of all your relationships. But it might mean that you have to see relationships in a new way. And I'm not talking necessarily about partners and stuff, because, you know, they probably know that part of you too. You know, if you've got a good intimate relationship, they'll know all parts of you and all that. But there might be certain people in your outer circle where the dynamic and the energy of that relationship needs to change. And that's definitely been my experience. But it hasn't affected anything to them, but it's affected how I think about this, right? You're welcome, Justine. So where was I? I was rounding up, wasn't I? Yeah, and I got pulled off on a tangent. So self-worth, self-value is everything. Taking full massive responsibility for where you are now, how you have adopted that identity, and how you're going to move forward. And what's the last point? And that you've got to feel and believe that you're the obvious choice for every situation. Well, not every situation, but the situations you choose to be in before anybody else does, right? So I will leave it there. So the link, I will put it in the comments as well, but the link for the magnetic truth method is there. I don't know if you can see it. I can see it, but I don't know if you can. It says featured link or one link. I don't know if it works. Please tell me if that works. I'll also put the link for that down there. It starts on the 18th. I've also got Emergence coming out, which is a 4-part live recorded program, which you can have and keep. You know, it's going to be a low cost thing. But that, if you've got service-based business, it's essential work, absolutely essential. Because all the people that you're looking at that are doing phenomenally well, I guarantee they're embodied in all those 4 areas, and we're going to show you how. I'm going to show you how to get embodied in those areas. So that's Emergence. And Emergence is actually one part of my big program Identity, which is an 8-week intimate thing. But I took that part out of it because I think it's so specific for service-based people that it's just great on its own. So we've got the free thing, there's that, and then I haven't released the date for when I'm doing Identity again yet, but it is on the cards. So that's where I'm at. I've also got some, you can do a one-to-one shadow work session, 1, 3, whatever you need. I have got a longer term one-to-one space open. But if you're interested in working with me on any of this personally, let's go hunting, let's go dissolving, then just reach out, message, and we can see what's available and what works for you. Absolutely loved tonight, and I've loved it for lots of reasons. I've loved it because how I felt delivering it. I've loved it for your comments. I've loved it for the clarity of where I'm moving towards and what feels really good. And yeah, I've really enjoyed it. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being participants and commenting. I absolutely love it when you comment. And yeah, I'm going to ask you this last off, is that if any of this has resonated, then now on Facebook, there is a little repost button. Not sure if you can do it on lives yet. I don't know. But anything that I'm doing on my feed at the moment, like I am actively looking to grow my audience. I can't do that without you. I'm not doing ads at the moment. So Facebook and the interwebs are not, it's not the easiest thing to get everything out there. So if you liked anything on my feed, then there's a new little feature. If some of you have got it, you might not all have it. So it's repost. It's a bit like on X. You can repost things, or you can share it, or you can tag somebody. I'm going to be asking that every single time I go live, every single time I post. Thank you, Kerry. Yeah, and I'm just going to be doing that. I'm going to be doing these every single Monday. So anything that comes up that you want me to speak to, let me know. I will talk about it if it's relevant and I feel like I've got something to say on it, which I have because I've got an opinion on pretty much everything. But in this space, you know what I mean? Don't get me to talk about politics. Don't get me to talk about politics. But yeah, that's it. Okay. Thank you so much for being here. I will see you next Monday. There'll be lots of stuff in between then anyway. The link for Magnetic Truth Method is up there. If you're interested in Emergence, message me. I will send you the deets. And yeah, I'll speak to you. Mwah. Thanks, Beth. I love you. See you later. Bye.